Chef Tom is watching. Said, hey, Chef. We have 8 people, Chef.
Okay, hello everybody that's watching. Chef Tom is there. I see you, sir. Thank you for joining me. We're going to wait before we get started. Wait for the numbers to go up a little bit, and we'll get started here pretty soon. And let's see. I see. Who else is here? Is that pronounced Renee? Renee Breyer Schultz.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm glad you joined us this evening. I did see your comment about a previous recipe that we did, so most definitely feel free to go back and review those recipes, and at a time that's convenient for you. But I'm so glad you joined us. Ginger. Hello, Ginger Daily. We'll be getting started pretty soon. I'm just waiting for a couple more viewers to come in, and we'll most definitely start getting ready. What I want to do is encourage everyone that is cooking along with me. If you are cooking, Ginger, you can go ahead and take this time to gather your utensils. I would say go ahead and put a pot of water on, and that's going to be for your potatoes. But just take a look at our board there, and you can gather up your tools and preheat your oven. I would say go ahead and preheat your oven to about 450, and then we'll turn that down once we get started. Oh, Chef Tom said, promise no chef words. No, we can give chef words. We just want to explain what things mean to our home cooks. And this is a time I want to invite home cooks and chefs to come and communicate together, and have it to be a learning experience. Yeah, Tom, this is a good time to share knowledge, and this is the premise of my cooking demo. I also want to empower home cooks with the knowledge. Chef Stephen, good to see you, sir. Thank you very much. We're going to get better as we go along, so I really do appreciate it. To God be the glory. Thank you, David. Glad you joined us. Okay, guys, I had the opportunity to talk to some of you, and I want to say thank you very much for those of you that have supported this chef demo and coming every night. I had some great pictures that came in as well. I'm going to post those on the Laterno Facebook. You will see them on my Facebook story as well. And we also posted the recipes on our YouTube station. We're trying to get those numbers up so we can post more content. So I think until we can get over a certain number, we can't really post content. So it would really help us if you can subscribe to our YouTube page, Laterno Christian Camp. Okay? All right, so this evening's recipe is going to be pork chops, one of my favorites. And but what I first want to talk about, I want to talk about the word mise en place. I haven't really talked about it since we started. And as I go through this, Chef Todd, Chef Stevenson, Stephen, if you guys can give some more information and help me answer this question. Mise en place basically is a French term for everything in place, everything in its place to help you from having to run around the kitchen with your head cut off. So everything should be in a reachable manner. And as you can see here, every night that I've worked with you all, I've had everything here. So I'm not running out the frame, running behind in the kitchen trying to grab my utensils. And so I suggest you do the same. When you go plan your menus, especially if you're cooking for a large family or a dinner party, it really helps to have everything laid out in front of you. And it just makes the time in the kitchen more enjoyable and less stressful, okay? So, mise en place. You want to plan your ingredients and lay everything out, okay? As I stated, you should have a pot of water on boiling. That's going to be for the potatoes, and I'll walk you through that. Also, your oven should be preheating, and I'll let you know when to reduce that temperature. So, the first thing we're going to start with, the herbs. And before I get in too far into detail, ginger, do you have the recipe in front of you? Let me know when she answered that question. Because what I want to do, I want to walk you through everything here. Here I have the squash. I also added some zucchini. The recipe only said squash, but I wanted a little more color, and that's why I added the squash, just to balance out for color, and also add a red onion. Generally, you'll see these vegetables when it comes to Greek or Mediterranean. So the red onion, most definitely, we want to saute that first, and that's going to give the vegetable a nice bite and a touch of sweetness from the onions. Next, I have some parsley here, and like I said, I have some red onions. I got lemon, salt and pepper. I have a cornstarch slurry, and we'll talk about that a little later. But if you want, go ahead and get you about, I would say, about 4 ounces cornstarch to 4 ounces of water. And go ahead and make a cornstarch slurry, and we'll talk about that a little later. I have my same dry seasoning that I've been using all week. That's lemon pepper, oregano, basil, and I have olive oil and clarified butter and chicken stock. Okay, so what I want to do now is go ahead and process my herbs. This is fresh oregano. And one thing about fresh oregano, if you don't work with it right away, it does start to turn a dark, eventually black color. My recommendation is when you purchase fresh herbs, go ahead and cut all of the fresh herbs. And what I like to do, I like to go ahead and put them in Ziploc bags and extend that shelf life. And how I do that, I just put all my fresh herbs in the Ziploc bags straight into the freezer. And so what that does, that gives you a little more life. I also sometimes take, olive oil and fresh herbs and make herb ice cubes. I mix all my fresh herbs with olive oil, and I just pour that into the ice cubes. So whenever I need to season something with fresh herbs, and I need olive oil anyway, I just take out an herb ice cube, drop it right in the skillet.
Ginger said they're just watching tonight and gonna make it later.
Okay. So the reason why I asked, if you read the recipes, you'll see what I'm doing. I like to, look around here in my kitchen and see what other ingredients I can incorporate into this dish. So I want you guys to do the same thing. I don't want you going to the store, buying, things every day. So it's best to try to utilize what you have on hand, okay? All right, so now I got my oregano processed. So now we're gonna add some parsley. Go ahead and mix these together. And now I have 2 bowls here. I have one bowl for pork chops and another bowl for my potatoes. Right now, in each bowl, I have the marinade. And the marinade consists of lemon juice and olive oil and fresh herbs. So we need to evenly divide the herbs in both bowls. Okay, I got the marinade and the herbs in a bowl. And then next what I want to do, I mentioned the potatoes. So tonight, we're going to be working with what I call B-red potatoes. So whenever you hear someone talk about B-reds, this is what they look like, okay? I think earlier this week, we also worked with Yukon potatoes. And potatoes, that's something that, you want to always keep in stock at your home. Potatoes and onions. Those are quick, essential items that you can add to make your dish. So what I want to do, I want to quarter these potatoes. When I say quarter, camera operator, can you see my cutting board?
Yes.
Okay? So this is what I'm looking for. A quarter is about 4 of these, depending on the size of the potato. It may be less, it may be more.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, it's okay. Make me look like the Matrix. It's okay.
That's okay, it's just mine.
Okay.
I'm just gonna have to
Are
hold it, I guess.
you guys still there? I know you may be dizzy. That's okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to continue cutting our potatoes. Hey, this is what happened when you shoot live. So, I hope you guys can appreciate it. But we're going to continue cutting our potatoes in the quarters. And also think about whether it's your vegetables or your starch, think about the thickness that you are cutting your product. Because if you cut it thick, then that's more cooking time. But if you cut thin, that's less cooking time. So keep that in mind. Now, as you can see, I started out with 3 B-red potatoes. And if you look at my board, this is 2 potatoes. And that's pretty much can easily feed 2 to 3 people. So I'm going to also do a series on different skills that will help you reduce the amount of money you spend on a grocery store, just based on your knife skills. Based on how you cut and dice and slice, that's 3 servings of potatoes, just from 2 potatoes. So imagine how much you can save on consumption of food, okay? So you guys are getting some great tips tonight, okay? Let's pretend like the camera didn't do the little up and side down thing. Okay, so next what I want to do, the water that I said you want to boil, we want to take and go ahead and add it to my, okay, this is called a China cap. And I have to remember that everyone watching is not a chef. So I think something similar to this in a home kitchen will be maybe a small colander in relations to the China cap. Why it's called a China cap, I have no idea. But that's what it's been called in food service industry. So we're gonna sit this in the water. And I want to say also, you guys have seen the pots behind me boiling away, and I haven't used them. So, you know, in the professional industry, we never know when we need boiling water. So it's best practice to always have boiling water when you're cooking. It saves time. Again, we want to get in and get out of the kitchen as soon as possible. So it's always good to have boiling water on the stove. So we're going to let those potatoes go, say about halfway. And the cook time on those are going to be maybe 2 minutes at best, okay? So while those are, we're blanching those, and when I say blanch, we only want to make them tender. We don't want to cook them through and through, because we're going to roast them in the oven as well. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to cut down the cooking time, okay? So while the potatoes are going, here the cream a la cream, the pork choppies. Now, what I like about these pork chops, I talked to the butcher at what's going on? Any comments?
Oh, the camera just turned around on my face.
Okay. All right, guys. So you guys are most definitely involved in our bloopers tonight. So please.
Oh, Jason, I quit.
So thank you very much for watching. Okay. Okay. So with the pork chops, we want to have a thin cut, and that's what we're looking for. Because again, we're trying to minimize on cook time. Okay. So those are the sizes that we want on the chops. So let me change my gloves. Okay, so again, our marinade is here. And for the sake of time, let's just say I've already marinated my pork chops overnight. Okay, that's what you want to do, because your ingredients here, basically what's going to tenderize your chop. But because my chops are pretty thin, I'm not really concerned about tenderizing, more so than I am imparting flavor to the pork chop. So what we want to do while we're waiting on the potatoes, let's go ahead and add the pork chops. And again, the marinade here is olive oil, lemon juice, and I actually got a pack of dry Italian seasoning blend to reinforce that Mediterranean flavor. So just give these a nice mix. Okay, let's change gloves. Move the plate aside. We're going to set that aside for now, because next we want to go ahead and get our potatoes, drain the water from them, and so the potatoes are in the same marinade as the pork chops, because we want the potatoes flavor to blend with the pork chops. Okay, so we're just going to take these, just give them a toss. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roast these in the oven. And this is what you're looking for when you're done with the marinade. And straight in the oven it goes. Okay. Now when you see the recipe, you'll see that the recipe suggests, I did suggest that you bake your pork chops in a baking pan in the oven. But because, again, we want to, get in the kitchen and get out the kitchen. And plus I would like to get a nice sear on these pork chops. We're not using flour, we're not using cornstarch, but we're just going to do a nice pan sear in a dry pan, because remember, your olive oil is here in the marinade, so there's no need for adding additional oil to your pan. Okay, so our roasted herb potatoes are in the oven, and so now we're just waiting on our pan to get hot. We never want to add anything to a cold pan, because what will end up happening, instead of you sauteing or instead of you searing your product, you're going to end up steaming your product. And then you're going to have that bland look to your food.
and you're not going to get that caramelization that you need to activate your product from that high heat. Okay, so I have practiced cooking on high heat. I'm not that good cooking on high heat, walking away. So let's go ahead and, all right, we're ready. Do not try this at home. My hands are like shoe leather, so I can touch the bottom of the pan. It's not as hot as I like it to be, but it's getting there. And also remember, we've been making pan sauces right from the product. And in doing that, you are again reinforcing flavor back into the dish. Okay? Okay, so I think we're ready. I see the pan smoking. Look at that. Isn't that sexy? Good deal. Let's go ahead and add one shot there. And again, if you can marinate at least 24 hours ahead of time, that's going to be your best bet for maximizing on flavor and tenderness. Because let's say you wanted to do a 12-ounce portion of pork chop. That most definitely will require at least 24 or 2 days, 72 hours marination, just to tenderize that thickness of product. So I've showed you how thick my chops are. So I'm guesstimating on each side, I'm looking at about 5 to 6 minutes on each side of the pork chop.
Did you use a bone-in pork chop?
I did, yes, bone-in pork chop. But again, I got it cut down to about 3 ounces. Perfect for sauteing. That's a perfect size for sauteing. If you're going to do a pork chop, a bone-in, like a double-boned pork chop, you most definitely want to pan sear to get that caramelization, but then finish in a hot oven at about 435 degrees. If you guys can sound off for me, I would love to know where you're from. Give us your city and your state.
I know Canandaigua and Indiana are on here.
Hello, Canandaigua.
Oh, and Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
All right, Missouri. Nice to have you. Good to have you. I want to encourage you all to please, when you try these recipes, please let me hear from you. Take a photo of the food that you're trying out and send that to my personal email, chefdeandre@live.com. That's CHEFDANDRE. And we would most definitely love to see your work. How many people we have in the room so far?
Right now we have 24, Chef.
24. All right. I'm so thankful and grateful because you guys could be anywhere right now. But you're spending time with us, and I certainly do appreciate it.
There's Coleman, Alabama, and Sandy Springs, Georgia, Farmington, New York.
Can I get some names from those places so I can speak to them?
Kathleen from Alabama.
Kathleen, hello.
Jackie's from Georgia.
Jackie, that's family all day.
Susan's from Farmington.
Susan, Farmington. Where's Farmington?
It's just north of Canandaigua.
North of Canandaigua.
Yeah, we
Okay.
drive through it to get to 90.
Okay.
Yep.
For those of you that don't know, I'm originally from Alabama, and so I get excited when I hear people from Alabama or Georgia. So I think I got excited. Maybe that's why the camera turns upside down. I got too excited. So right now we got the pork chops going. And remember the caramelization that I was talking about? This is what you want. I don't know if you guys can see this. But that's the caramelization that you want. That's the color you want. So like I said, we want to do about 6 minutes on each side. We have our roasted potatoes in the oven. So we will we'll plate those in a moment. And again, I want to remind you all to please log on to YouTube. Our YouTube page is Laterno Christian Camp. And we most definitely need your support. Just click that subscribe button, and that will give us another avenue to create more content in advance. Eventually, I want to start teaching techniques, knife skills, and just have the ability to have more content and more cooking tips for you guys on YouTube. So please do that for me. Spread the word for us. And I would certainly appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take our pork chops. And we're going to rest our pork chops. Can someone tell me, when I say rest my pork chops, and this is, no chefs can answer this question, okay? So when I say rest my pork chops, what am I talking about exactly?
David's asking, is this going to be a weekly podcast?
Well, this was our first week, and we're going to actually, Friday will be our last podcast, if you will, in chef demonstration, because we want to give you more content, better content. But we will be back. We will most definitely be back and expand our platform to YouTube, Instagram, and other platforms to be a little more flexible to be user friendly. And so let's most definitely stay tuned to that. Have anyone asked the question about resting protein?
Not yet.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the next step, which is I'm going to make a sauce a pan sauce for the chops. So basically, again, I'm going to take my drippings from the pork chop, where the herbs, the lemon juice, all the flavors are still here. So you don't ever want to get rid of the skillet and just put it in the sink, okay? You want to maximize on flavor. So this is what we're about to do. I have some chicken stock here, and we want to deglaze this pan. The liquid is going to actually help scrape the bottom, and all that goodness is going to come up to the top, okay? And that's going to be the basis of the sauce. So I have a 2-ounce ladle here, and I'm going to add 2, and that's about 4 ounces of stock. Give and take depending on how many people you're cooking for, okay? And here in front of me I have a cornstarch slurry. It's just 1 part water, 1 part cornstarch. So we'll get the bottom nice straight. And I want to hit it with fresh lemon juice. Salt and pepper. Let's give it a swirl.
Let me take some fresh parsley here.
Chef Tom is willing to answer about roasting the pork chop.
Okay, go ahead, Chef, since no one has answered yet. And I'm going to tell you guys basically what he's going to say. When I rest the proteins, it just allows the juices to relax. And you don't have a dry chicken breast, pork chop, and especially turkey. You know, turkey has the tendency to dry out, only because it doesn't have that much fat content. Okay? So the pork chop is over there chilling. I got some parsley there. I just hit the sauce with some lemon juice, drizzle, cornstarch. You want a little at a time, but you don't want it to be too thick. But even if it is too thick, you can add more chicken stock just to thin it out. Now we're going to add our parsley. Okay, camera operator, I want you to get this because the pork chops are about to be real happy. Ooh. Now that is finger licking good. All right. So next, we're going to get started on our vegetables. Same pan, okay? Because we want to, again, reinforce the flavor in our dishes. Okay? So, as you can see here, I have squash and zucchini. And again, the recipe only have squash, but I saw the zucchini just so I can break up the color and add a little more flavor. So, I don't want to get overly complicated of telling you how to cut your vegetables, but again, keep in mind the thickness of how you cut your product, because that's either going to increase your cooking time or decrease your cooking time. So I know I'm doing a high saute, so I want to cut my vegetables thin, okay? Do we have any questions so far?
No, sir, not at the moment.
Okay. So we're going to start with our onion. Now, I like to cut my zucchini and squash halfway down to the meat and the seeds. Why? Because what you have here is 90% water and seeds. And what happens as this cooks down, it becomes mushy and is really not usable. There's no nutritional value at all. So plus what I want, the nutritional value is in the skin. And I still have some meat there as well.
There is a question that said, could you reduce some red wine for the sauce or add a bit of cream if desired?
You certainly can. One thing about sauce making is so versatile. I don't want to get overly complicated with you guys, but there is what we call mother sauces. Sauces that from one sauce you can make up to 100 sauces. So yeah, sauces are really versatile in that way. Okay? So, and pretty much
that's the way you're going to also cut your squash. But we already have some vegetables pre-cut for you. So we're going to add some olive oil. And like I said last night, if you don't have olive oil on hand, you can do vegetable oil or canola oil, or even a mixture of olive oil and canola. Okay? So again, in the same pan where we have cooked out pork chops and made our sauce, now we're about to cook our vegetables. And same premise, we want to wait until our skillets are back up in temperature, and it's going to be a quick saute. Red onions first, because I want the flavor from the red onions to come out and the sweetness to affect the squash and zucchini. If you're not hearing this sound, then you have already decreased your cook time. And remember, I said, if you're trying to saute, you always want to start with a hot pan. If you don't hear this sizzle, that means now you're steaming your product, and you're not really getting that caramelization out of your product. Okay, let's add some squash and some zucchini. The seasoned salt and pepper. My seasoned blend. And if you notice, all week we've been cooking with fresh herbs and dry herbs. So let's try to make a habit of using herbs in some form or fashion. Let's give those a toss. We're going to hit these with a little lemon juice as well. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and plate our roasted potatoes. And this is the color that you want from your potatoes. Nice and crispy on the outside, but nice and soft on the inside. And then again, a lot of times cooking is all about timing as well. If you do it right, step by step, everything should come out about the same time. And here we are. We have another finished dish that was done less than 35 minutes. We have Greek style pork chops with roasted potatoes and sauteed squash and zucchini. So I want you guys to please try that. Most definitely try making more pan sauces, because again, you're going to see how that flavor really produces a great accompaniment to the entire dish. So listen, I want you guys to come back. We'll be back here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And please visit our YouTube page and subscribe. And listen, it'll be a blessing. Give what you can to us here at Laterno by way of donation. We would certainly appreciate it. God bless. and take care.